It was a quiet evening in Ouagadougou, a silence that felt heavy, a stillness that warned of impending danger. Inside the presidential residence, Ibrahim Traore sat at his desk. Papers stacked high, reports of foreign interference, regional threats, and ECOWAS pressure filled the room like smoke. Then the phone rang. The screen read, NG. Traore picked it up slowly, and a familiar voice came through, warm, friendly, confident. It was Nigeria's president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Brother Ibrahim, how are you? Traore replied calmly, knowing that polished political tone. Tinubu got straight to the point. Look, all this tension with ECOWAS, all these sanctions, it doesn't have to continue. Let's meet you and me in Abuja. We sit talk and solve this as Africans, not enemies. There was a pause. Traore leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowed. Peace talks? He asked. Tinubu chuckled. Yes, yes, of course. Just us African leaders. You have my word. No interference, no traps, no France. Just a conversation between brothers. Traore didn't respond immediately. He was quiet, then said, I'll think about it. After the call ended, Traore felt uneasy. Something was off, too smooth, too rehearsed. He stood up, walked to the window, and stared out into the city lights. Then he made another call, this time to his intelligence chief. Track all French diplomatic movements in Abuja, he ordered. I want eyes on every new face at Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, and listen closely to ECOWAS channels. If this is a trap, I want to see it before it snaps. The officer replied quickly, Understood, Mr. President. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away in Abuja, another phone call was happening, one Traore would never hear. A French official speaking in hushed tones gave clear instructions. Once he lands, don't let him leave the ground. Delay the plane long enough for us to act. The operation is ready. The Nigerian contact replied coldly, Understood, he won't even make it past the tarmac. And so the trap was set, an invitation dressed in brotherhood, a handshake hiding handcuffs, and a plan to bring down the last man France couldn't control. But what they didn't know was that Traore was already watching. Word of the Abuja meeting began to spread quietly. Officially, it was just a diplomatic mission Burkina Faso's president invited to discuss peace and regional stability with ECOWAS. But behind closed doors, it was something else entirely. The French embassy in Abuja extended its working hours. Unmarked vehicles were seen entering a restricted hangar, and the Nigerian DSS, the secret police, increased activity around Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, all without press, without questions, and without explanation. And in the middle of it all, President Ibrahim Traore remained silent. No confirmation, no denial. His team didn't post travel plans. There were no press releases. The airport in Ouagadougou prepared a jet, but no one saw him board it. And yet, at exactly 11:43 a.m., a private jet did take off bearing the Burkina Faso flag. News agencies picked it up instantly. President Traore heading to Nigeria for ECOWAS peace talks. Headlines flashed, reporters lined up in Abuja. In Nigeria, the trap was tightening. Security teams had their orders the moment Traore stepped off the plane. He'd be met not with a red carpet, but with detainment disguised as protocol. A holding room, a diplomatic delay long enough for outside hands to do the rest. Inside a command center near the airport, a Nigerian intelligence officer whispered into his headset, Target jet approaching landing in 10 minutes. Confirm interception plan. Another voice replied, Stand by. France wants eyes on him the moment the door opens. But something was wrong. When the plane touched down and the doors opened, it wasn't him. Two diplomats stepped out, calm, silent, smiling. President Traore couldn't attend. One of them said, He sends his regards. The Nigerian officers looked confused. The French agents monitoring from a nearby hotel went into panic mode. Because just as the world expected Ibrahim Traore to walk into a trap, he walked into a studio back in Ouagadougou on live national television. Traore appeared in military uniform, straight back, steady-eyed, and addressed the nation. They thought they would find me landing quietly in Abuja. He said, But I do not answer to traps. I do not answer to puppets. I answer to the people. Then came the line that would echo across Africa. You cannot arrest a lion by calling him to dinner. The studio went quiet, but online the internet exploded. President Ibrahim Traore, seated behind a simple wooden desk in uniform, but without ceremony, looked straight into the camera. Not angry, not loud, just clear-focused, unshaken. Last week, I received a personal invitation from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He said it was for peace. He said it was for Africa. But it was not peace they wanted. They asked me to land alone, no security, no press, only trust. He leaned forward. But when I trust my people, not the hands that once sold Africa in silence. The room behind him was still. He continued. Inside Nigeria, certain elements with foreign backing prepared to arrest me in secret. They called it ECOWAS protocol, but we know what it really was. He held up a folder thick-stamped with intelligence markings. Here are the recordings, the messages, the transfer logs, the security memos sent from Paris to Abuja, 2 days before the call was made. The voice of a foreign power trying once again to decide which Africans are allowed to lead. The screen behind him lit up audio clips, played whispered voices, confirmed locations, even a time-stamped directive. Ensure Ibrahim Traore does not leave Nigeria without approval, and in bold the code word, stabilization protocol. But this time, the world didn't believe the spin because Traore had shown the receipts. That same hour in Abuja, panic swept through official circles. The French embassy refused to comment. Was released a vague statement about miscommunication. But online, there was no hiding. They tried to trap Traore. Africa, eyes awake. No more puppet leaders. The streets of Ouagadougou filled with people again, not in protest but in pride. Young men waved flags, women sang in local languages, old men said, "We've never seen a leader like this." And across Africa, the message was clear. This was not just an attempted trap. It was an attempted message, and that message had failed. Because Ibrahim Traore didn't just dodge an ambush. He turned it into a mirror and forced the world to look at its reflection. The video had barely been online for 3 hours, and the reaction was already unstoppable. Across Burkina Faso, people gathered in streets, towns, squares, schoolyards, not to demand answers, but to say thank you. Not many presidents escape a trap and then come back with evidence, and even fewer do it without a single bullet fired. In Mali, a group of students painted a mural on the side of a university wall. It showed a lion walking calmly past a hunter's cage, untouched, unchained. Beside it, they painted 5 words, "You cannot cage the people." In Niger, a radio host ended his morning show early and told his listeners, "Africa is awake, and the ones who used to pull the strings, they're now pulling excuses." Across Nigeria, the situation grew complicated. Some denied the plot. Some tried to spin the narrative. But on the streets of Lagos and Abuja, something unexpected happened. Young Nigerians began to speak up loudly. If our leaders invite others just to betray them, one woman said on TikTok, then who do they really work for? Traore is a lion? A man tweeted, "Our own would sell the jungle just for a handshake from France." And at that moment, the divide between leaders and citizens grew clearer than ever. Because this wasn't just a Burkina Faso issue anymore. This was about every African country where decisions were still being made in whispers, behind closed doors, with foreign hands holding the pen. In Senegal, a group of market women started wearing T-shirts that read, "We are all Traoré now." In Ghana, civil society leaders held emergency roundtables. One speaker asked, if they can try to trap him today, what will they do to our own tomorrow? Online, the story flooded everywhere. Millions watched the clip, journalists fact-checked the documents. Even French news outlets were forced to report on the leak, slowly, cautiously, without answers. And through it all, Ibrahim Traore said nothing else. He didn't tweet. He didn't threaten. He didn't need to. The people had taken over the message, and the message was simple. We are not waiting for permission to rise. We are just waiting for the moment. The video didn't just go viral, it set the continent on fire. Across Africa, people weren't just shocked by the attempted trap. They were hurt because this wasn't just about France anymore. This was about one African leader, President Tinubu of Nigeria, being used to lure another African leader into a setup with foreign fingerprints all over it. And that stung, especially because Tinubu had spoken proudly in the past about African unity, about Pan-African progress, about brotherhood. but now it seemed he had acted as a middleman for betrayal. In Kenya, a popular radio host asked on air, "How can Nigeria, the giant of Africa, become a delivery boy for France?" In South Africa, a viral podcast host broke down the moment the footage dropped. "You can't tell us we're brothers in public, then hand one of us over like a package when the cameras are off." Tinubu doesn't just owe Traore an apology, he owes the whole continent one. Hashtags exploded. Yes, we stand with the Traore. Not in our name. Shocker, Africa is watching. Nigerian youth, already critical of their government, felt betrayed the most. On the streets of Lagos University, students protested in front of ECOWAS buildings, holding signs that read, "We are African first, not agents of the West." Traore stood for all of us. Tinubu stood for silence. Nigerian artists and musicians joined the wave. A rising Afrobeat artist dropped a freestyle online saying he called him brother on the phone, but sold him out once he flew alone. The lion saw the trap from home now, the puppet shakes on his own throne. Meanwhile, in Abidjan, posters of Gilbert Diendéré, the coup plotter who fled Burkina Faso weeks earlier, were seen near a French embassy gate with red paint over his face, and the word traitor written beneath France tried to downplay the operation. A spokesperson vaguely denied involvement. "We respect African sovereignty. We were not part of any such attempt," but no one believed it anymore. And Tinubu, he went silent. No press conference, no statement, no denial. That silence spoke louder than any microphone. Even Nigerian senators began whispering behind closed doors. One lawmaker was heard saying, "This Traore story has changed everything. We need to tread carefully. The people are watching like never before." And the people were watching a young Burkinabe leader who had stood up against empire, and a Nigerian president who had apparently stood aside to let it happen. Valuable lesson. This story highlights the importance of vigilance and self-reliance in the face of external influence. True leadership lies in prioritizing the interests of the people over the promises of foreign powers. It emphasizes that transparency and accountability are crucial in building trust and fostering genuine unity. Call to action. What are your thoughts on this story? Share your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insightful content. Rate this video on a scale of 1 to 10.